Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to NIE Home School. I am Rahela Ferdousee, Assistant Teacher, Day Shift. Today I am going to have a class with the students of class 7. Our today's subject is Physical Education. Our today's topics Chapter 2, Lesson 4 and 5. Our today's lecture number is 4. Now come to our lesson. Our chapter was Scouting and Guiding. We will start from Lesson 4. Pole and shear lashing and figure of 8 lashing. Pole and shear lashing. Pole and shear lashing is called only shear lashing by many. The tangle which is to tie 2 pieces of bamboo or wood is called pole and shear lashing. This lashing is used to tie 2 poles together to be used as legs or to increase its length by tying 1 bamboo or pole together. When 2 pieces of bamboo poles are tied together at their upper ends together to be used as legs, this is called shear leg lashing. When one bamboo or pole is tied with another one to increase the length, it is called pole. Basically, same lashing is used to make shear leg and pole, though there is difference. For example, frapping is required to make shear leg. Frapping is not required to make pole. How the pole and shear leg are prepared is given below separately. Making the pole. 2 poles are kept together in parallel position. At the height of 20 cm of the upper end of a pole, the lower part of another pole is to be placed. Then the poles which are set side by side, where they meet together at the height of 4 to 5 cm, a fish hook knot is to be given. At the upper end, they are to be put together with the remaining portion of the rope is to be tangled with the loose end of the rope. Then with the moving part of the rope, 2 poles are to be tangled from the bottom to the upward position. There will be tangling for 8 to 10 times. After doing that, lashing would be finished when the 2 poles are tied together with a fish hook knot. It will be better if the lashing is given separately, where 2 poles meet together and the tie becomes very strong. So there will be no possibility of slanting of the poles to any direction. This is how pole lashing is done given for making pole. Making of shear leg. 2 ends of 2 pieces of bamboo or poles are kept together in parallel position. They are tied together with the fixed end of the rope giving a fish hook knot. After that, the excess of the remaining part of the rope will be tangled. Now, with the moving part of the rope, 2 poles are to be tangled together following the direction of the moving part of the rope. It should be noticed that during the tangling, one rope will be attached to the other. One rope will not go upon another. This tangling part of the rope between 2 poles this tangling should be done for 8 to 10 times. After that, the part of the rope between 2 poles would be tangled with the moving part of the rope at least 4 to 5 times. This is called frapping. The harder the frapping is, the stronger the lashing is. After the frapping, the lashing should be finished with the fish hook knot at the pole it was started with. This is how shear leg is done. Figure of 8 lashing. The lower parts of the 3 poles would be placed in a parallel line. They will be placed side by side and very close to each other. Any 2 poles will be tied together with fish hook knot so that the uppermost portion will be over the pole. After that, the excess remaining part of the rope will be taken from bottom by tangling with the moving part of the rope, at least for 5 to 7 times. Then the pole with which fish hook knot is given first with the rope which is in the middle part of the pole should be twinned together at least for 3 to 4 times with the moving part of the rope. Next, the part of the rope which is in between the 2 poles is to be twinned as before. In this way, tangling of ropes putting one over the other is called frapping. The harder the frapping is, the stronger the lashing will be. After frapping, lashing would be completed with fish hook knot. 8 lashing is used to make a tripod binding 3 poles or bamboos together. This is the figure of 8th lashing. Lesson 5, First Aid. You have got an idea about first aid in class 6. First aid is a part of medical science. First aid is the primary medical help given to sick persons instantly or to those who fall in accident suddenly. It is usually provided before the doctor comes so that the condition of the patient is not deteriorated or complicated. That is, the measure taken to provide the primary nursing and the arrangement of temporary treatment to such an accident. All these primary arrangements are called first aid. Bleeding. Blood is a liquid substance. Its color is red for the presence of coloring agent named hemoglobin. The blood looks red. When wound is caused in a body due to any shock or cut, blood comes out from the body. That is called bleeding. Bleeding may cause for any ways. For example, 1. Bleeding from mouth. If bleeding occurs from any part of the mouth, one should suck ice. This will help stopping the bleeding. Then the patient should take rest for moments. 2. Bleeding from nose. If bleeding occurs from nose due to any heat, the patient is to lie down on the back. He is to be seated with his head tilted backward at once. The clothings are to be loosened. Cold compress is to be applied on the upper part of the nose and at the back of the neck. The breathing will be done through mouth. Even after the bleeding is stopped, cotton gauze is to be kept inside the nostrils for some more time. Bleeding from any other part of the body. If any other part of the body is cut, the place of cut is to be pressed for some time with clean hand. When the bleeding is stopped, it should be bandaged. Generally, the bleeding occurs from 3 sources. For example, capillary, blood comes out in a flow continuously. Vein, blood comes out profusely. Artery, blood comes out in sudden spurt. Most of the bleeding in accidents occurs from capillary tubes. Primary treatment in case of bleeding. The patient should be transferred to such a place where he may sit and lie down. If we do this, bleeding slows down automatically. If the wounded part of the body is raised above the level of heart, bleeding will noticeably slow down. In case of a small cut, blood will be coagulated and the bleeding is stopped automatically. Bleeding is stopped very often if the wound is pressed by thumb. The movement of the wounded part of the body should be stopped. Ice should be put on the wound. Direct and indirect pressure should be given to stop the bleeding. The wound should be bandaged with clean cloth or cotton gauze. The patient should be sent to a doctor or to a hospital as soon as possible. If the bleeding is severe, tourniquets should be used. Tourniquet means making the primary fastening strong by untwisting gradually. Firstly, the wound is to be bandaged loosely. Then the bandage will be tightened by entering a stick or a wood pencil inside the bandage for untwisting it slowly. Then the bleeding will be stopped. Electric shock. Nowadays, electricity has been provided in urban and suburban areas and even in the rural households. Due to unplanned and unauthorized connection of electricity in many places, accidents may occur at any time. There are 2 types of electric current, AC and DC. AC current attracts whereas DC current pushes away only. So AC current is very dangerous. If electric current comes in contact with wet cloth or a live tree, accident occurs. There is possibility of being electrified if somebody touches these electrified objects. In case of electrifying, if somebody comes in contact with electric wire or if somebody is electrified, the main switch is to be turned off at once. If it is not possible, the electrified person should be detached by pushing away with the help of a dry piece of wood. If wood is not available, then pushes the electrified person by covering hands with a dry cloth. Accident may occur if the electrified person is touched with hands. Water should not be poured down upon the person. If the breathing stops, effort for artificial respiration is to be started. Soon a doctor should be called in. Spraying. The ligaments of the joints of the bones may be sprained or displaced during movement. As a result, the surrounding tissues are torn out and severe pain is felt. This is called sprain. It is natural to get hurt or sprained sometimes during physical exercise, playing or other activities. The medical treatment is required for these accidents, but sometimes the medical service is not available immediately, so the wounded person needs first aid. Symptoms: pain will be felt at the injured part, the joints will be swelled up, the color of the sprained part will be turned red or blue, the normal movement should be stopped, and if there is movement, the pain will increase in the sprained part. First aid: ice or cold compress should be immediately be applied at the place of wound. The wounded part should not be moved. The sprained part of the body should be given rest and comfort as much as possible. The sprained part should be plastered. The bandage should be kept wet always. If possible, ice is to be applied. The patient should be laid down comfortably if the muscles get sprained. The patient should be sent to a doctor or hospital as soon as possible. Beating or stinging. One should be careful about the beating of different animals or insects. There is germ of hydrophobia in saliva of a mad dog. Dogs, owls, foxes, mongooses, and moles, all these animals are carriers of the germs of hydrophobia. After the beating, the wounded place will be washed out immediately with carbolic soap or water. The affected person should be sent to hospital soon. The claws of cat are very sharp. Cats carry the germs of diphtheria. The beating or stinging of scorpions, bees, and hornets is very dangerous. These insects penetrate venom from their poison sac by stinging. Sometimes the sting remains inside the place of beating. In this case, the sting should be taken out, giving pressure around the wound. In case of snake biting, the place on the beating should be tied with cloth or rope tightly. As a result, the circulation of blood would be stopped and poison cannot be spread out. The blood should be drained out after cutting the wounded place a bit deep, 1 or 2 centimeters with a sharp blade. The binding cannot be kept more than 30 minutes unless the circulation of body may be stopped. As a result, gangrene may occur at the lower part. The patient should be sent to hospital as soon as possible. Something falling into the eyes. Eye is the invaluable asset of human body. Different kinds of accidents may occur in the eyes. Dust, chemical substance, or any other object can affect the eyes. If something enters the eyes like the above, eyes cannot be rubbed off. The spurt of water should be applied in the eyes. The patient is to be seated facing the light. Then the eyes would be observed thoroughly, opening the eyelids lightly. If there is anything inside the eye, it should be taken out gently with the corner of a wet handkerchief in a light hand. If any chemical substance falls in the eyes, they will be washed away with milk. If the eyes are affected, the patient should be sent to a doctor or hospital as soon as possible. Something entering into the ears. If insects enter the ears, small quantity of mustard oil or olive oil can be poured down into the ears. Then the insects may die or come out. Apart from that, if any object like small marble enters the patient should be sent to a doctor or to hospital soon without any movement. The things to do in case of unconsciousness. If there is any functional disorder in the nervous system of human body, the unconsciousness may occur. This stage is called unconsciousness. The patient becomes unconscious due to different causes such as disease, accident, taking poison, and difference of temperature. The patient is to be taken in open and airy space. The clothes, shoes, socks, artificial teeth should be taken off. The patient is to be laid down on his back and the action is to be taken accordingly, observing him carefully. Unnecessary crowd should be removed. If there is any bleeding, it is to be stopped. No stimulating drink or food would be given. If the unconsciousness is caused due to taking poison, The patient should be laid down with the face downward and placing a pillow under his chest. The legs of the patient should be folded from the knees to upward. The spurt of water should be applied on the face of the patient for regaining consciousness. Hot tea or coffee should be given to drink. The patient should be sent to a doctor as soon as possible. Okay, this is all for today. My dear students, you must practice reading this at home. Stay well, stay safe. Assalamu alaikum.